Hello, welcome to another maths video. Today we are going to learn how to sketch a quadratic graph. Now a general quadratic is of the form y equals to ax squared plus bx plus c. To sketch the quadratic graph, we need to first change it into two formats. Now the first format is known as the factorized form. That is y equals to bracketed a x minus alpha x minus beta. This is known as the factorized form. In this form, we know that alpha and beta are the roots. Now, what are roots? Roots are simply the x solutions for which y equals 0. How are we able to then factorize the equation, the quadratic graph, quadratic curve into this form? We can do so by using the crisscross method or the box method. You can even do it intuitively. Alright, I will share that in another video. Next, you can also express the quadratic form into the completed square format. So that will take y equals to a bracketed x minus h square plus k. Now this is known as the completed square format. In this form, we know that h, k is the maximum or the minimum point of the quadratic curve. Now, to change it into the completed square form, I have made an earlier video which I will put in the link description below. Now, before we can sketch a quadratic graph, it is important to understand the different features of the quadratic graph. Now, there are 5 features of the quadratic graph that we need to pay attention to before we proceed to sketch it. The 5 features are conveniently expressed in an acronym which I have invented, known as xylem. This is the biology term for water carrying tubes. So we have xylem. Now, what does xylem represent? X represent the x-intercepts. Y represent the y-intercept. L represent the line of symmetry. And E represent n-fold. Now, the English teacher is going to probably kill me for this, but there is actually no word that describe what I need. I need the word curvature. However, X, Y, L, C, and M does not form any acronym or any word that I can think of. So I have used instead the letter E, n-fold, which is sort of a hugging motion. Now, n-fold give you a U or an N. It's like a hugging motion. And lastly, the M represent maximum or the minimum point. So for every quadratic, we will need to express the following features. Now, some of the features may be lacking in the graph. However, we will need to try our best to illustrate all the 5 features. Now let's begin by looking at the first form, the factorized form. So our first form is y equals to x squared minus 3x minus 10. After which, using the box method or the crisscross method, we can arrive at x plus 2, x minus 5. So now we are going to explore and find the xylem. So we have x, which is to find the x-intercept. So we let y equals 0. So when y equals 0, x plus 2, x minus 5 is equals to 0. So we have the solution x equals to minus 2 or 5. Next, we have the y-intercept. Now the y-intercept, you can sub x equals 0, or the y-intercept is simply the c. ax squared plus bx plus c. Now the c will be the y-intercept. So here, I know that the y-intercept is equals to minus 10. Or you can simply let x equals 0. 0 squared minus 3 times 0 minus 10. That will be minus 10 as well. Next, we find the line of symmetry. To find the line of symmetry, we just need to use the symmetric properties of the quadratic curve. We know that it will be symmetrical about the two roots. So we simply take the average of these two numbers. So we find the midpoint, which will be adding these two numbers up. That will be minus 2 plus 5 divided by 2. And that will give us 1.5. So we know the vertical line of symmetry is x equals to 1.5. Next, we find the n-fold. Now in this case, this is a positive quadratic. Okay, the coefficient of the x squared term is 1. If nothing is written here, that will be 1. And 1 is positive. So a positive coefficient of x squared will give us a u as compared to an n if this is negative. So this is positive, the a is positive, so that gives us a u. Next, we have to find the maximum or minimum point. Now since this is a u, so we are actually finding for the minimum point. To find the minimum point, we make use of the fact that the line of symmetry will exactly cut through the minimum point. So we can borrow the x value of the line of symmetry to sub in to find the corresponding y value. That will give us the minimum point. So we sub in when x is equals to 1.5. What is our y? So we can solve for that. That will be 3 over 2 bracket square minus 3 over 2 minus 10. So that will give us 9 over 4 minus 9 over 2 minus 10. Okay, doing some mathematics. Okay, which you can input on your calculator. Okay, that is minus 2 and 1/4, so minus 12 and 1/4. Alright, so once we have found all the things, so the minimum point here is 1.5 comma minus 12 and 1/4, or 1.5 minus 12.25. Alright, so once you have found out all the necessary points, then now we are ready to sketch the quadratic curve. We first note that we need to include the point -2 and 5 for the x, and we need to include the point 1.5 for the x. For the y, we need to have a lowest of -12 and 1/4. We also need a -10. So we need a lot of the negative side. And for the x values, we can roughly center it around the origin. So then we sketch the quadratic curve. So we know that we can roughly do the center like so, but we need a lot of the negative side, so we can put the horizontal line higher, like so. Labeling y and x. Now, firstly, we try and plot out the points -2, 5, and 1.5. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, although this is a sketch, there must be a reasonable degree of accuracy to outline all the 5 features correctly. Okay, so we have -2, and then we have 5, and we also need to look at 1.5. Okay, now for the y value, we can first draw in the line of symmetry. So the line of symmetry will be at 1.5. For the line of symmetry, we will draw dotted lines, like so, and we can indicate the line of symmetry. Now next, we plot in the point. The x-intercept is -2 or 5, so we cross that. That will be the points of intersection. Now for the y, we need to have -10 and -12 and 1/4. Now then we can roughly now go by 2. So that will be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Alright, and then this is the -10. And then we can X this as the y-intercept. Then the minimum point that will roughly lie at this point, which is about here. And we can label the minimum point that will be 1.5, 12.25. Okay. Now then, we simply connect the curve in one smooth line. Now, the dotted line, the line of symmetry, is to help us guide our work so that the left side and the right side is roughly balanced. Alright, so usually we do this with a pencil, but here I'm going to give it my best shot. Okay, like so. And then we can label the graph. So there we have it. We have the quadratic graph. Now, note that for the quadratic curve, here must be smoothed out. And this point, this tail, must be in this inclination. It cannot be curving out like that. That will be wrong. It cannot be curling inward as well. That will also be wrong. So it must give you this general sense. Now we can also check the accuracy of our work by comparing the spaces here and the spaces here. So that looks about alright. So this is the completed quadratic curve sketch. Next, let us look at how to sketch the quadratic curve if we are unable to factorize in this form. Then we would have to factorize it in the second form. So here we go, that's the second form. The second form will be y. For example, we have 2 bracketed x minus 2 squared plus 18. Now, firstly, we can also follow the xylem. So let's begin. We have the x. That is when y equals 0. So when y equals 0, we have 2 bracketed x minus 2 squared plus 18 equals 0. To solve that, we bring the 18 over and then dividing by 2. So we need to isolate the squared term. So we have x minus 2 squared equals to minus 9. Now we run into a problem. When we try and square root both sides, we will get the following. Now, square root, you cannot take a square root of a negative number. That will give us a imaginary solution. So henceforth, there is actually no real solution for x. There is nothing to worry about though. That just simply means that there will be no cutting of the x-axis. So there will be no x-intercepts. So no real solutions. In other cases, you will be able to solve for 2x values. Now let us continue the y. So the y-intercept, that is when x equals 0. So when x equals 0, so y would be 2 bracketed 0 minus 2 squared. So let me write it down. So that will give us 4 times 2, 8. That will give us 26. Okay. Now, then we need to find the L, which is the line of symmetry. In this very nice format, the line of symmetry is already written nicely for us. So the line of symmetry is simply x equals to 2. Now this is written here. What is the x value that makes this part 0? The x value will be 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. Now then we have the n-fold. Again, this is a positive coefficient of x squared. If you can just see the 2 here. So this one is a u. And then we have the maximum or minimum point. So for this format, it tells us the minimum point directly. So in this format, it gives us the minimum or maximum point directly. It gives us the line of symmetry directly. However, we have to work a bit to get the x-intercept. In the earlier factorized form format, the line of symmetry and the minimum maximum point, we have to work for it. However, the roots of the solution is found instantly. So in the earlier format, we can find the roots easily. However, we have to work hard for the line of symmetry and minimum and maximum point. So there are pros and cons to each different format, to each format. So the minimum point here will be simply the x value that will make this 0, that will be 2, and the remaining y value. So when this is 0, then the remaining y value is positive 18. That will be the minimum value. Now, you may think that why is that going to be the minimum value? Because this is a positive square. Alright, anything squared is going to be positive. So the lowest you can go is simply when this is 0. So that will be 8. There's no way you can go further, go lower, because this is going to be positive no matter what. Now, once we have the xylem ready, now we are ready to sketch again. So for the x values, we need to take care of the value x equals to 2, and that's pretty much it. For the y value, we need to take note of the intercept 26, which is pretty high, and the minimum point, which is 18. So we are going to have a lot of the positive y parts. So we do that by simply doing this. Okay, so we have a lot of the y part. So in this very simple quadratic, we only have very few things to do. So we have the 2, and then we need to account for 18 and 26. So 18 we can run by 5. That will be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, so then 18 will be 5, 10, 15, 18 will be roughly here. So the y-intercept will be 26. We have, okay, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So the y-intercept will be roughly here. That is 26. Now, then the line of symmetry is x equals to 2. And the minimum point is 18. So 5, 10, 15, 18 is roughly here. And that is the minimum point. So we have 2, 18. So now we are ready to begin our sketch. So for this one, okay, make sure this is flat. So this will be the quadratic. And then label the quadratic. Okay, so there we have it. This is the completed sketch for this quadratic graph. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked the video, and please subscribe to enjoy more maths video. Thank you.